pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Marty.
Okay, we have the agenda ahead of us. We do have one addition, and that's the Manning Main Street project, and they'll be back around 10:30. So we'll have that. Is there any other additions or corrections?
I'll move to approve the agenda with the addition.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. That, we'll go down to the next item is to approve the minutes from last Monday's board meeting.
I read them. I think they present themselves well. I move that we approve them.
I agree, I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second on the floor for the minutes. Any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll start out with the first item on the agenda, and that's the new opportunities fiscal year 17 funding. Chad?
Hello again, Chad.
Sure. Hi, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Chad.
Thank you for having me this morning. Well, I think we may have a copy of the packet that we sent out on November 17th describing our funding request. I do have a few additional things just to present to you. I'll give you our updated Family Development Center brochure. And I'm actually going to be specifically talking about this attachment 5, which is in your packet, but that way you'll have that right on top. And then this last handout is a very important handout because it shows all the different services that we provide. So maybe just to jump right into it, as our cover letter says, we're asking for the same amount as we have since 2010, so we're not asking for any kind of increase. We know that budgets continue to be tight and economically, and it's the right thing to do. We are providing lots of great services to the families of Carroll County. Between last year and this year, we've seen about 200 people more as of now. We have a few more days left in this year to December, but I've seen a few more people. If you look at your attachment 5, which looks like this is all the folks that we've seen in Carroll County. This last year we had 803 households, and this was as of that November date, 1st of December date, so it's actually a little higher than that, which comprises of around 1,800 individuals. Lots and lots of folks we're seeing. I always like to talk about the unemployment. That of the clients that we're working with, of the families we're working with, 1.72% of the households that we serve were dependent on unemployment. So it's a very small amount. And what that means is that we're working with a lot of folks who are working. They're the working poor. And that's really important for you and for the taxpayers to know, is that we're not just giving out handouts. There's no such thing as free money. We're working with folks who are trying to make it. They're trying to provide for their family. They're just not quite able to. A lot of that is the poverty line, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. Our WIC program, we did do 674, worked with 674 different women, and then in our substance abuse treatment and prevention program, we saw over 2,000 individuals from Carroll County. So we're doing lots of presentations, we're working with lots of different folks with their substance abuse issues, and that sort of thing. One thing that, if we look at this brochure, this is just on our food pantry, our Family Development Center, I should say. And that's what I didn't want to say. This isn't just about our food pantry. This is our Family Development Center. And within our Family Development Center, we're doing energy assistance, our clothing closet, financial literacy counseling, which is a huge, awesome program that continues to be important, financial literacy counseling. We do rent assistance and transportation assistance and lots of other things, plus our food pantry. We want to be that one-stop shop. We want to be that program that, when, if I could just use Mark as an example, he comes out and he's having a tough time, maybe he's recently got unemployed, he says, Chad, Albina, wife and I just need a little bit of help with the food pantry, can you do it? Yes, and we're going to help you with that food pantry. We're going to get verification. We've got to find out that you are truly unemployed. But then we want to go to that next step. We want to figure out what other programs might you qualify for with the idea of how do we get you off of our system? How do we get you back on your feet? We're going to get you down to workforce development, and we're going to verify that you are applying for jobs and you're doing those kinds of things. So again, it goes to that whole concept of we're not just wanting to give out free services. The other thing we're proud about with our food pantry is that we do let our families pick out the food that they want, and that eliminates waste. We don't pick out, when Mark comes in, I'll keep using you as an example, for a food pantry, we don't just go to our back room and say, well, here's 9 green beans, 9 cans of green beans for your family for the next month. We actually have you go back and pick it out, because you know your family. You know that they would prefer carrots as compared to green beans, as compared to peas, or whatever the situation might be. So that's kind of a neat thing that we're doing with our food pantry. The other thing is, a lot of you probably know, we continue to run the Carroll Community Gardens, and we do reserve a few of those spots for our low-income families. We're working with the Extension Office as well. We're helping these low-income families learn how to garden and how to provide for themselves. And we're able to provide some financial assistance to help them with the seeds, which I know are inexpensive, but you know, it's a great way to help these families get back on their feet and do that sort of thing.
Chad, I'm going to back up a minute.
Absolutely.
Because I missed something right at the beginning. At the beginning, you said you're asking for the same as you were last year.
Yes.
And on your cover page for the prevention grant, it has 11,935. We've been using 15,924 for that, which you're asking a lesser amount. Is there something else on there, or are you going down, or am I missing something?
Well, that's the match money. So the state of Iowa puts in some money. So you may only be putting in, you're only putting in 11,000. I'm gonna look at her.
No, last year we put in 15,000.
Well, that's what we
15,000.
budgeted,
Yeah.
15,524,
I was looking at that too. I had it on here as well.
and it's been that, well, this goes to through 12.
And then, but that 15,000, that's because you receive the money from the state of Iowa. And so, see, I don't see that money.
That could very well be.
So part of that
Because
that we
we
give
have to
you, we
budget.
have received from the state, is what you're saying.
Exactly right. What you're actually seeing out of your pocketbook, I believe.
Well, then we're budgeting too much for it.
Well, we still have to budget for it, because we have.
Okay, but we have the income on the other side.
Exactly.
Okay.
I can pull the history up and see how much
Yeah.
we
All right.
didn't get from the state, and it should match.
Okay.
Exactly.
You don't need to do that, but we'll do that. We'll check that out, Chad.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, that's all
No, I
right.
had the same question. Same here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just,
You bet. Great question. One of our new programs that we did in the last 12 months is a new program. It's called Love and Logic. We started that out in Sac County. We're now doing it in Carroll County. And Love and Logic is a new, loving, balanced approach that's neither permissive nor punitive. It shows adults how to discipline, how to work with their children. And it's just a great program. It has to do with nurturing long-term relations and reinforcing good character. We've had a lot of success with that. A lot of our families are working, but we encourage them. We want them to go into these kinds of programs as well, so it works out really well. I guess the final handout is just this one. I call it the Faces Flyer, and these are all the different services we provide across our 7 counties. Just want to remind everyone that, you know, we are a 7-county agency. However, any donations and of course any of your county money does stay all 100% here local in Carroll County. And lots of things going on. It's a very busy time for us. Like many other human services and mental health centers, healthcare services, we're pretty anxious about this whole Medicaid reform and working with these 4 MCOs, and we're trying to get that all figured out. And it's been a challenge, but that's been a big deal for Gene and myself on the board of directors, and trying to kind of get through some of these things and figure it all out. So, in closing with that, and I can answer a whole lot more questions if you like. You know, we do want to thank you for providing us with Gene Miners. Gene is a phenomenal volunteer, you guys. You would not believe the hours that this gentleman does with our Head Start Policy Council as well as our board of directors. His education and knowledge and what he provides is phenomenal, and it's really going to be a huge role, because the federal reviewers and the state reviewers that are coming in, they're now wanting to work with our board of directors as well. And so it's so great to be able to lean on Gene, because he knows what's going on, and so he's able to answer the questions with a great job. So thanks, Gene. Thanks, y'all, for letting us have
You're
you.
more than welcome.
Any questions? My presentation isn't too different than it has been in the years past, but
And Chad is right. I mean, they have so many services that when we get new board members on there, it takes them a long time to
Yeah.
understand it all because it's just amazing.
Yeah. We really like to be
And I
that.
tell you what, we're very fortunate we have the Chad and then Sherry Mertz. They do an outstanding job and the rest of the staff.
Yeah, Sherry's our chief financial officer, and to keep this all straight, it is an amazing job. So we really pride ourselves in being that one-stop shop. We're doing all kinds of different services. It's a great thing. So.
They actually work with, what, 7 different financial year ends.
Yes, yeah. We do have some.
Sherry keeps that all straight.
Yeah.
The different grant programs.
I think we've got 84 different funding sources, so it's very, very complicated now.
Chad, I think for the benefit of anybody new to the room and maybe for the press to understand that when we make the contribution to new opportunities, it's for 3 different units, 3 different, it's for the prevention grant and also for prevention services, 2 different things. And then I want to be clear, your cover letter says Carroll County Development Center, but specifically that's the Family Development Center.
That is.
Because I, as you know, I frequently get questions by fellow pro-lifers, what we're exactly funding here.
Exactly.
And so the Family Development
Yes.
Center does not go to contraceptives or
No.
any of those other things, even though you do offer those services elsewhere.
Tiny
Through the-
percent, a tiny percent. We
Yeah.
do offer that referral service is what it is.
Right, I get those
So-
questions every year, and so
Yeah.
I always have to be specific that, but the cover letter didn't specifically say Family Development
Yeah.
Center, so I want to make sure that that's still clear.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions or comments for Terry?
How do you arrive at, this is a question I probably should have had last year. How do you arrive at these numbers? Is it by population or what?
It's basically, we look at our budget, and year after year, what kind of services we want to provide for Carroll County. If we were to look at how far short we are, we could or should be asking for more, but we know because of budget constraints, we can't. It's the same dollar amount we've asked for since, 2010. So there is no magical formula. If anything, we'd love to see it more. And by more, I mean, we'd like to do more of these prevention services with prevention of alcohol and drug abuse, tobacco use, and those kinds of things. Would be a great service. We would love to do lots more, but financially, just can't.
Sure. With the 7 counties, that's what I was wondering,
Oh,
as
I
far as
see.
the comparison
Yeah,
between,
yeah.
I'm sure they're all different, so.
They are. Carroll County is actually the highest, even above, provides the most services, but Dallas County gives us more money in regards to support. The other counties are smaller, but we're also providing a whole lot less services. And that question does come up. The smaller counties always want to make sure that they're not paying more than anyone else. And you get kind of what you pay for, I'm afraid. And which is okay. The smaller counties, we're not needing to provide a lot of extra services, but hopefully that answers a little bit. There's no magical
There's
formula.
no-
No.
Okay.
Well, and some counties don't get the same services we get here. Like, there's certain counties don't get early head start.
Don't get mentoring. There's
So there's different programs in that.
Different counties.
Depends upon where the grant monies and stuff come from.
Exactly right. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Some of those counties don't support that stuff.
That's right.
Anything else for Terry?
But I think you're
Matt?
gonna be considered 2,000 people just in Carroll County on substance abuse?
2,000, yes, and that's for prevention services. So, that's gonna include, going into the schools, we're counting those children and that kind of thing. So, otherwise, it sounds like a lot,
Sounds
doesn't it?
like a lot.
Yeah, but you have to remember, prevention services is when we're actually going out, when we do a presentation at the Lions Club, the Kiwanis Club, all of our different schools. Great question.
Thanks,
All right.
Chad. Thanks,
Thanks,
Chad.
Chad.
Thanks,
Merry
Chad.
Christmas.
Merry
Yep.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Dave's not here yet, is he?
He is.
Oh, yes, okay.
Scared to come in this morning.
Just walking in.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, if you'd like to
absolutely.
have
I
one.
didn't know, no, I have some, thank you.
With that, we'll go down to secondary roads. Dave?
Hi, David.
Perfect timing.
Oh, okay, yes.
Morning, Dave.
Morning, everyone.
Wonderful day.
Challenges this morning? Challenges?
I think there's some snow on the road.
That's what they said, so Gene said they get more intelligent.
Yeah. And they're out there, water over the road and snow.
Crazy.
I've never seen flooding in December.
We're just lucky it's not 10 degrees colder.
Oh,
Otherwise,
my God.
otherwise we wouldn't be here.
We'd be
Yeah.
buried.
We sure would.
It's all over the place, Chicago, Green Bay. That's how warm it was.
Yeah.
I've got a utility permit for West Central Rural Water, a board crossing of Birch Avenue between Arcadia sections 7 and 8 with a 2-inch water line. The crossing will be, let's see here. It's for a hog unit.
What township was that?
Arcadia, section 7 and 8. Drawing in there. There's a whole lot of information.
Okay. What you're talking.
What was that one on? Let's see. Okay, yeah.
Birch Avenue.
Make a motion that we approve the utility permit, that's the only one you have?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second on the floor for utility permit in Arcadia 7 and 8 on Birch Avenue. Any other discussion? Now, call for the vote. All in favor of approving the utility permit, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Last week I phone polled you about hauling some hallet gravel that we're currently buying for $5 a ton down to Templeton and hiring Arcadia Limestone to do it, just putting a stockpile up. We've tentatively, I think they had 1,000 tons or so in there last week. We're talking roughly 4,000 of that at Templeton and 1,000 of it at Carroll. The charges are $5.25 to haul it to Templeton and $4.55 to haul it to Carroll. There'll also be a 25-cent charge for pushing the pile up. If they push it up, we may wind up pushing
What
it
was
to
the haul to Carroll?
Haul to Carroll is $4.55. I believe that if you work it out, it works out to 17.5 cents a ton mile, which is a reasonable charge. So that's underway, but Gene and I were talking about it would be good to get it in the minutes on the board that it,
Well, and the thing is, you gotta have this up by the first of the year, right?
yes, yeah. So there was some urgency to it, otherwise we go on our new agreed rate, which is $6 per ton, so.
The way things are looking today, we're gonna need it
I
this
think we're gonna
spring.
need it, yeah.
Yeah, there was none down in that pile anyway, so. I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 5,000 ton.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a
And
second.
the hauling. Do you think they'll get it done by the first?
I'm sure hoping so, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna get done today.
Because I went out there today and looked at it, looks like some good stuff.
Yeah. They have about 8,000 tons left. He was guessing 8,000 to 10,000 left in their commercial pile. And I don't think they'll allow us to have any more than 5 because they want to keep some on hand.
Mhm.
Do they process their own year long?
No, that's that's the tough thing about it. Our next pile's not gonna be around until mid-May or, hopefully maybe come a little sooner than that. We'll have to use some other sources.
Okay. Any other discussion on the purchase of the 5,000 ton? Now, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Under limestone stockpile, last year about this time, I think it was right around the first part of January, we've phone polled 6 individuals. We're on this list, and here the bids that they returned last year were pretty good, just to bring in some limestone, either from the Griffith Quarry or from the Marietta Quarry. And all included, to give us a price for that, and into our Carroll yard, and we would push it up. We would take care of that variable. A fair spread there. One of the vendors spoke to me about maybe having a staged completion on it, some a little earlier, some a little later, in case they're, the work that they've got to do. It'd be kind of nice. I think last year we put in May 15th, is when we would like to have it in. And I'd like to get a few more tons than 6,000. Initially, I was thinking 20,000, but that might have been a little bit on the piggish side. But maybe 10 or a little more than that. We have used up all of that and more that we've hauled in this year. I think it's working out too good. My only concern is we'll get too used to it, and if there comes a day that we have to take it away, that won't be good.
But right now, you're using that as putting a little of that down and putting gravel on
1
top,
inch.
right?
Right.
And that-
Looking for
I'll tell you
Trying
what,
to build a base with it.
that mile we tried it on first, that really made a big difference.
Yeah.
I'm very much in favor of continuing that practice.
If you do look at it, if you look at the gravel that we would haul in, say just straight gravel, we'd have roughly $4.55 a ton in haul costs and $5 in the gravel, so we'd have $9, $10 in straight good gravel. And at limestone, those prices ranged $15 to $19, so that's the upcharge for the two to have here in Carroll. So,
The one road that really stands out is Iowa Corn Processors for the traffic that's on that, how it's holding up with the white rock. It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
and we do put a fair amount of rock into that every year, but it takes the traffic.
So you plan on contacting these same 6 individuals? to get-
Yeah, and if anybody else shows up here in the meantime and, can provide us with a certificate of insurance, and, but I think we've got all the vendor information on all of these other ones, and we did get quotes from them last year, so I'll go off and contact them. I don't know, tons wise, I think we could get 10,000 in there. Our gravel pile is real low now. We plan on rebuilding it as much as possible. And I'd also like to crush our concrete that we have there, contact the people who crush concrete, kind of get that, because it's kind of encroaching on the area where we'll pile this and pile our gravel, and if we can get that over its own pile, we can make more room for more. But what would you think would be a reasonable amount that we would get?
You did, how much, 6 last year or something?
6 last year, yeah.
Are you still thinking of the 1 inch?
1 inch roadstone, yeah, which is basically Class A. Class A is crushed down to 3/4 of an inch, that spec is, but it's basically the same gradation, or the same DOT gradation. But both vendors, both Martin Marietta and Griffith, handle it. I think we had a couple, Stratford, of course, they produce at Griffith, they came from Griffith. I think Butel came from Griffith, and I'm not sure if Troy Schoen did. Their Griffith's a little farther away. It was a little bit cheaper. It's a little farther away, but it's a little easier to get in and out of. That kind of.
And those are hauled rates?
those
Delivered.
haul rates, including,
And dropped at the yard.
dropped at the yard, yeah, including the price of the material. So The thing I like about this is that some of those people you got on that list are gonna be, this would be an off-season job for them. Yeah. So it'd probably get a little better quotes right now.
I don't know how diesel prices are. I know gas is quite a bit less. Will that help their bid somewhat?
Yeah, I would think so. I haven't seen, haven't seen that anywhere. but,
Shouldn't be any higher anyway.
It shouldn't be any higher.
No, it's considerably lower. Diesel is.
Yeah, the freight prices. I noticed with our salt trucking, they weren't willing to come down any, in the price anyway. They've been at $32, I think, for quite a while.
There's a little more competition in this particular bidding though.
Yeah.
The other thing you have to look at, the price of root's going up, tires are a heck of a lot higher than they used to be. It's all ways out when it's all said and done. Put 18 wheels around a semi, it takes a little cash.
And I think maybe we could get 10,000 in there. And actually, I was thinking about doing more initially, but I thought we did 10,000 last year, and I got to looking, we only did 6. We did 5,000 the first year, and then 6,000 the next year. What can your budget handle? Budget can handle probably 20, because we haven't been doing a lot of other, and we've got the increased road use tax. That's one thing, we've been reporting to the state, even though it's not mandatory. They've done it. They put out a survey to, what people are using it for, and there are a number of them that are using it for granular material, resurfacing granular roads with increasing the road use tax.
I'm glad you brought that up because this additional gas use tax is quite controversial in the past. And we said that even as a county, we wanted to say how we spent it, and we spent it on our county line road with Crawford County. I think we justified that very well. So maybe this is an idea of where we could put some of that extra money.
Yeah.
Or did you have, I guess the idea I'm bringing up is we should earmark where we're gonna spend that money this year, and maybe this is a possibility.
Or do you have something else in mind for that?
Well, even last year, we really kind of, I reported 3 projects to them. I reported the RISE project too, and the county line project, and all our little towns that we did. So we had quite a chunk. We actually kind of spent ahead a little bit. But,
Okay.
this is a voluntary thing since we're not required to do it.
Mhm.
They are curious, and they do want to take it to the legislator to see.
I don't think, regardless of whether it's voluntary or not, I think we need to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just think there's an accountability. Everybody knows we're getting the money. They want an account of how it was used.
Yeah, this just may be, another avenue, because our system is predominantly gravel roads, it's 80% gravel roads. They need resurfacing too, and they're one of our primary consumers of our funds, really. They consume as much as the paved roads.
Do you have a separate, I'm sure you don't have a dedicated account, but a separate ledger to keep that track of that with the,
Earmarked?
Not really, no. I have to, since it's not formal, but if we would talk about it and do it specifically, for material, for rock material like this.
yeah, I think we need to have some type of mechanism such as just a side ledger that's really not required, that just shows what
Where
that
that money's
income
spent.
has been and where it has been spent
Yeah.
for accountability reasons. I don't think that should be too difficult to do. It just
No,
Dave, has the 6,000 we bought in 15, has it been dispersed?
it has.
Okay, so we're back down to zero.
There's a little straggling bit in the yard, but it's not enough to do anything with.
Okay. My suggestion would be is to, maybe put a quote out there for 10, but it might not hurt to see if they'd be willing to throw in an option for another 2 to 4. I mean, if you get really good quotes, I'd like to be able to exercise that option at our decision.
And I think, in talking to one of the vendors, I think it was important to them to have a stage, because we're gonna want some early, that's for sure, to handle this. But, we won't be able to handle all 10 right away, more than likely, unless we just go put that solely out, concentrate on that. But
So I may stage the quote to, say, May 15th and June 15th for the additional.
Split it 2 times.
Yeah, why don't you stage it twice with an option for a third?
Okay.
You think that's?
Yeah.
That's a good approach, I think, Mark.
So get 5, and then for 4 or 5 more
Mhm.
with the third in the
Yeah.
middle of the
Well,
summer,
you
whatever.
can keep your front end up higher. You know you're gonna need that.
Mhm.
You went through the 6 last year. But whatever.
Yeah. Well, if they can get it to us, if they're busy, we're interested in price, that's for
And
sure.
like I said, while those on that list, they're gonna be looking for some work to do in the winter. And that's the ideal work for them.
Yeah. So hopefully the sooner we get in gear, get this done, and give as much flexibility as possible without tying them too hard to the early
I
completion
think
of it all.
it's a good idea.
Mhm.
Well, maybe 5, 5, and 5.
Sure.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. That'll be pretty easy to think through then. Yeah, I get that done this week or not, but pretty soon.
Okay.
STP applications, next thing on there. I just have one of these with us. Every year, our region takes applications for STP projects. We just did our STP project, or just had it at Halber, but it's,
This is a blank.
this is the blank one, yeah.
You're just showing us the form.
Just showing you the form, yeah. It appears that it may be our year to come in and apply for funding. They're requesting funding, I think, for 2017 to 2020, applications for that. With that STP money, since it's federal money, the best jobs to do are jobs with no right-of-ways, no jobs where there's no issues with any road alignments or narrow shoulders or anything else that needs to be fixed. And probably our 2 best places to go would be the Breeda Road, the 5 miles from Breeda out to 71, or the Litterdale Road. And I shouldn't say or, I would intend to apply for funds on both of these for asphalt resurfacing. The Breeda Road was the last resurfaced in 1990, and the Litterdale Road was last resurfaced in 1987. So they're getting up there, they both are in age. Probably put on 2 lifts, 1 inch and 1.5 inches. And the Breeda Road would roughly be $850,000, and Litterdale Road would be $650,000. If we add those 2 together, that'd be $1.5 million, and we'd request 80% of that, or $1.2 million, which is kind of in the realm of what we typically do. The last time we did $1,050,000 on the last one. Every 5 to 6 years, we do it again. And there's a little bit more money now. Federal money on an annual basis, not significant more, but a little more.
Litterdale was
Board of Supervisors,
87,
Marty speaking.
87, and that's nearly 30 years ago.
not 97.
87.
Man.
Okay. Yes.
It could use a little help.
It could.
I'm
yeah.
just on it more than Breeda. You could argue Breeda could probably use it.
Basically,
on
the
both of
person
them,
you
yeah,
probably
last
want to
night.
talk to on that is
Yeah.
the county engineer.
Yeah, yeah, Litterdale
and
could
that'd be
definitely
Dave
use
Paulson.
it.
Yeah.
And his number is 712-792-3603. So, actually, he won't be around for a little bit. He's at the
Well,
board meeting
would this
here right
again
now.
be
But if you want to call
A
him.
candidate to
probably
be
about a half
using
hour or
the
so, he'll be
additional
around.
road use tax funds, the 20%?
For, yeah.
Yes, yeah, as well, we're getting an
Yeah,
additional
the county,
nearly
the board of supervisors
200,000
basically
per
trustees
year
will
with our
bring it
farm
to
to
us,
market
but
money,
it-
which will
to
be
get
the 20% of
the
that. so
location and all that. Just,
another
yeah, put a
candidate
permit together.
for the use of those
As well.
funds. Yeah.
But these,
No.
these wouldn't be farm to market though, would
They,
they?
And who-
they
what'd you
would.
say
your
They
name
would-
was?
They'd be a blend of
Brian.
80% federal aid,
Yep.
20% farm to market.
Okay.
They'd be
I
paid
will give him a
initially
heads up that you'll be
100% on the
calling
farm
him
to
and
market
we'll kinda go
account,
from there.
And then reimburse the 80%.
He's just finishing
with
up here,
federal
he
aid.
should be done in about 10 minutes there.
Okay.
So if you wanna give him a call in about 20 minutes, half hour, he should be around. Okay, thank you. You bet, bye.
And I don't have the form filled out yet, but before I fill the form out, I thought I'd better ask you to see if that would be okay. The Litterdale Road, I believe, is in the 5-year program right now, the Breeder Road isn't. And I'm not sure, we may have to negotiate a little bit with the other counties, you know, in which year we could do them. They both could, anytime during that 2017 to 2020, they could be done. I just assume get them done as early as I could, though, maybe 2018.
Yeah, this is planning ahead, that's for sure. I don't have any initial issues with either one of those projects. Were there any other projects that you considered or think that we should look at, Dave?
We talked about the Willie Road and the road, Grant Road, or South Grant Road, or Swan Lake Road. There doesn't, we don't have an age on it. Willie Road, when it's done in '97, Willie Road gets pretty good traffic. You know, there are upwards of 1,000 vehicles a day. Actually, the highest traveled road in the county is that Breeder Road. It's over 1,600 vehicles a day in those first 2 miles. And I think it's 550 to 580 on that Litterdale Road. The Willie Road has got some issues with its shoulder. You know, there's areas where it's kind of narrow and steep. Its 4 slopes are not the best. It's we'd have to do some mitigation and whatnot. We might just as well spend our farm to market money on that, you know, and spend out of, not spend out of this DP account.
And I see you don't have it on, when was the last time that was done south of Manning at Airport Road?
We just did the shouldering work.
No,
And the airport road south of Manning?
we never did any shouldering work.
No, we didn't, no.
Because Dave and I are talking about, we may have an opportunity.
I want to say maybe '93.
Also, we're surface, okay, I didn't know.
It's getting some age on it, because Roselle, the road into Roselle's in pretty tough shape. From Roselle to Albert is kind of next. And that Templeton Road and the Manning Road, those are all candidates, but probably the ones that are in the best physical shape
Well, they're, like you said, without having to do any shouldering.
with any shouldering.
These two would be the
bridge
best.
work and that kind of stuff, that they're good candidates for this specific type of funding, because there's always more criteria with federal funding. We have to spend it on our system somewhere, so we might just as well spend it on a road that doesn't need a lot of that extra stuff that they'll require.
When you gave us the traffic count on those different roads, was that taken before or after the feed mill went in Litterdale? Because that's added a lot of
That
traffic.
was before the feed, yeah, we're up for another traffic count this summer, so
Because that has added a lot of traffic there.
A lot of traffic, yeah, especially that 3 miles, that's really gotten a lot, and to the north. And
Yep.
you can see-
North, there's a lot of traffic.
You can see the effects on the road. I don't even know if we'd want to maybe consider doing that mile north, or going through Litterdale and doing that mile north possibly too, or do it as a farm to market project when we,
Oh, you mean do up to?
Another mile.
yeah. do
Another
up
mile.
That might not be a bad idea.
There by the church, it's getting down pretty bad, where that stop sign is.
If you're considering doing that, could you piggyback that onto the bid with the rest of this? Because everybody be set up there, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I think we
As far
just,
as
we
little
just
economy.
extend the project to do that, and that's a pretty good little stretch of road too, that
Yeah.
doesn't have any issues.
And do that with more local funding or something.
And
Okay.
really, the road through Litterdale, I'm not sure, just what we do, that 99 was the last time we did through there, through town.
Mhm.
But, yeah, that could certainly work.
Well, you're not gonna get the money if you don't put it on the application.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
So I guess I'd be in support of him doing the application.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. Do you have that application?
Here it is.
You okay?
It's kind of secret, Dean.
Kind of secret.
We talked about it at Region 12 a little bit with that fast resolution.
Uh-huh.
About that a little bit last Thursday.
They're gonna give us a little more money,
Yeah.
I think, to the region. We've got to compete with
Mhm.
the other counties, but it's not a heavy competition. We pretty well share the money like America.
And if approved, it would probably be done in 18?
That's kind of what I'm gonna be shooting for.
Okay.
It'd be, we can't deficit spend with those funds, even though it's a reimbursement to the farm market account, because we can deficit spend with our farm market account, we can borrow ahead, but we can't borrow ahead in that, so we have to be fiscally constrained, and if somebody else has got a project that's, maybe has more priority and more importance, they may want to sneak in ahead of us. It just looked to me like 2018 would fit anyway.
So would you apply after you do traffic counts? Because-
I'd apply now.
We'll apply, we have to have that in by, what's it say?
January.
January 8th.
Yep.
And that's for 18? For 2018?
It's for that range.
Okay.
It's for the 2017,
I see. Gotcha.
2020
Yep.
Transportation Improvement Program, which they call the TIP, or sometimes they call it the STIP, the Surface Transportation Improvement Program.
Okay.
And, but it's how we allocate our federal funds for roadways that are dispersed to us through the region, and the 6 adjoining counties. And everyone that wants to expend funds has to do it. And we will do a traffic count on this road, we're required to do so. So hopefully, we can get the counter out there and get that done.
I forget, are these competitive in nature?
Not really, but
Okay.
yeah, it's just, we do keep track of what everybody has gotten over the years, and we try and keep it on an even keel with our form of funding that we had. It changed in '93. We used to get a direct allocation of federal aid back in, prior to '93, when they came up with this system in '93. And we've been doing it that way since.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to authorize you to apply for this, Dave?
I think if it's okay with you, I'll do the application. We'll have to do a resolution for this application, so I'll bring that resolution in. So this is to keep you from being surprised.
Okay. Right.
If that's, if it's informally okay with you, that's how I'll prepare the applications for those 2 projects and
All right.
and the resolutions.
Okay. All right. Basically, E16 from Rita to 71 and then 38 from Laredale to 30.
Yes, yeah. The possibility.
A mile north.
That 1 mile, making that a 5 mile.
Possibly that.
Yeah. I may keep the federal funding in that same neck of the
Yeah.
woods, in that $1.2 million range, and supplement that with farm market money. It'd be a good time to do it. I think we're gonna try and make these projects to where they can stand alone, and then let our other projects separately, either in the same letting, if we decide to do some other projects, say we decide to do Templeton or Manning or one of those other ones in that same letting, just so they're not affected by the federal aid auditing requirements.
Well, there's definitely more feed trucks out there and grain trailers
Well,
than
there
there
sure
has
are,
been.
aren't there?
Just more heavy traffic.
Yeah,
period.
more heavy traffic.
Yep, they're going both ways, hauling grain in and feed out.
Feed out.
Drain 61, the landowner owns the ground there, written on the map here, called me about some broken tile in the waterway. And looking at it, they're passing over the waterway with their equipment, and the tile is shallow in the waterway. We've had some trouble with tree roots, and quite some time ago, I'm not even sure when it was going there, and it's not really relevant to this conversation. But there are some broken tile in the waterway. The landowner would like to continue to farm this east and west and go over that waterway with the equipment, just for the way it works out. I believe he would be willing to pay for the relocation of the tile himself, the drainage district tile, out of the waterway and into higher ground. So it's obviously, the waterway has probably been moved at some time prior to his taking ownership. He's only had ownership for 3 years. And this is, we found 12 inches to 15 inches of cover in the places that were exposed. And it appears from the original profile, there was probably as much as 5 foot or better. In fact, the average depth of this section of the line, when it was made, was 5 foot. So I would assume at some point in the past that the waterway was changed. The reason I got this letter in here in the next 2 pages from Hudson. Jim Hudson was always our attorney for years and was, he wrote a lot of section 468, which used to be 455, but is now 468, the Iowa Code concerning drainage districts. And at that time, back in 1990, the Board of Supervisors asked him what to do in a situation where we have tile lines that are being destroyed by farming practices. And he goes through quite a lengthy thing that gives me just to read. But in the end, it appears that the landowner bears a lot of the responsibility. But it also says that the board has to maintain the tile. I think there's some flexibility here. In the last page is from the Iowa Code talking about willfully damaging tile or damaging tile. What's done, and that's in 468 also. I'm just making you aware of this right now, so you can read this, read that letter from Hudson, and kind of get a feeling, read the code, get a feeling what the code says. I don't think we'd have to go to any of the extremes that are shown either in this letter or the code, but it does appear that the landowner is willing to relocate the tile line at his own expense and thereby solve the problem and solve his problem too. Get it where he could farm over that tile.
So how much is he willing, how much do you could plan on relocating? How much length?
I'd say there's probably 300-400 feet there by looking at the map.
Yeah.
How much?
300-400 feet by looking at the map.
Yeah, but I mean, is the issue downstream same way?
I think it's better down the stream, but to say without, we in that 300 or 400 feet, we stepped off, I think, about 350 feet where there's damage right now.
To get it out of the waterway.
We need to look at both ends, we need to look at the whole thing, dig some holes. We didn't probe down there where there's no damage, or where there's no damage right now. So, we need to investigate it
Yeah,
more.
this is the waterways.
You know, that would become the drain
On the east side
there.
of the waterway,
We'd do this and
20
see,
feet.
see for sure if he's willing to do it.
20, 30 feet probably.
Well, I mean, just so we
And then
don't
this
go
would
in
be
and
about
do
400 feet.
Partial.
But right here,
Yeah,
if you
patch
use
job.
400 feet roughly, just
If
eyeball
there's an issue down the line, we just will be going.
Is there many private tiles hooking up to that along the way?
I expect there are, Neil, yeah, it's in a pretty flat area, so I
Yeah, I would
suspect
expect there to
yeah.
find some other 6-inch tile hooked up to it.
And there may be some that, cross the waterway, which.
And
could
they're gonna
be-
have to go across the
They're
waterway.
gonna have to go across, and they could be an issue, though they would become his issue.
That's waterway. So
And,
he's farming right on
we'd
that.
have to
Okay.
note their
He's farming this way,
location.
you can see the rope
It's
pattern.
it's kind of a dilemma. It shows that we have some rights, but really, he wasn't the one that destroyed the tile probably, or put the waterway in the place
Mhm.
that made the cover. So it's kind of complicated, but I think he may help us and make it simpler for us by being willing.
Just by the way it looks on the picture, isn't it gonna have to cross the waterway at some point?
To the south end, he'll take it back
Mhm.
across.
The picture is probably not gospel, from
No.
at least from what we found. The broken tile were circled, and they were in the center of the waterway, so that looks good, but I wouldn't trust the picture as being
Okay.
100%.
100%. We probably need to do some digging and probing, map it out, and probably spend, some survey time doing that with drainage district funds.
Yeah, the ideal situation would be a pretty expensive fix with 10-inch tile on that whole
The whole
distance.
thing along,
Yeah,
yeah.
which would be the ideal fix, but it'd be really expensive.
Yeah.
He's been crossing the entire length of the waterway, and where it's circled that's about the only area that where it's wet, it's damaged, and it's broke. So, there must be something different up at the north end of it. I wouldn't say what at this point.
Yeah, it's one of those two, you get into it, you don't know what you're gonna find.
But anyway, that's just kind of staged information, I guess, would be the best way to put at it. Pretty good letter from Hudson there, that really, those are real jewels. We have about, 5 or 10 of those, but they're real jewels as far as giving an interpretation of the code and whatnot.
Plain language.
Plain language, yeah. Yeah, and he just shoots real straight, and he's really explains it nicely, and I think we've got every letter that we've ever received from him.
So what direction you need from us today? That we're at least willing to consider it?
Yeah, I think he is willing to consider it. I think we gotta look a little further and find out, just like me and Marty, like y'all were saying, look a little further and find out, what are all the ramifications, and then agree to what each party's gonna do. It may take a little bit of survey time, we may have to spend a little engineering dollars, plotting that out. It might be just so obvious, it won't take any engineering. I'm hoping it freezes up so that probably.
End of the week. You got 2 days.
End of the week.
You won't be doing it today.
Thursday, Friday, is
Thursday,
your
yeah.
only opportunity.
Seems like I forgot something. Oh, I did. Under road discussion, Becky Earl was in with the weed report, which we can put on the agenda and pass on another day, I guess, if it's okay. And here's some information about the weed commissioner. I believe Earl is interested in retiring from that job. That's what he's told Becky. Has he told you that, Marty?
Yeah, I had some discussion with him too.
Is that an annual appointment?
Those must be all.
Um,
I didn't grab any more.
It says that they may annually appoint. This is a section of the code here.
We annually do it. We annually.
Okay. And you
So
passed
this-
around that
this
sheet
is-
Friday and it was on there.
Pardon?
Courtney just passed around a sheet for, we're, getting to the time of year for annual appointments,
Oh.
and his name was on there,
Uh-huh.
so.
That'll, I believe
that's the case, I'm not sure if Earl's gonna come up. This is the note I've given you, that's what he told Becky, and she wrote down. We do have a fella on the payroll right now that probably could work into this pretty easy, that does spray our weeds, if you're interested in for an appointment.
He's just currently on our given payroll today.
When he works through the summer, he is,
Okay.
spraying weeds. He's passed all the tests, he has all the qualifications.
Okay.
And I have asked him, if he's interested, and he is. And his name's on this, and
Yep,
looks
got
like,
it.
looks like that is allowed. He's
Got it.
a real good character.
Do we want to approve this report today? Or do you want to do that at a later date?
If you'd want to put it on the agenda and prove it, that'd be just great.
And then it's done. Should we make that addition, add that to the agenda? The weed commissioners report?
So moved.
I'll second to add the weed commissioners report to the agenda.
Okay, you got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So, do we need a motion to sign it?
So moved.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second to sign the weed commissioners report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Yeah, and I don't know if Earl's gonna come up or not. I wonder,
I think I'll maybe do some follow-up there, either get a hold of him or his son and visit with him.
that'd be wonderful, yeah.
That way, 'cause- and then when I talked to Earl, well, it's been probably a month and a half ago, I told him that we'd need a letter of resignation for formality, so I'll follow up with that.
If you need us to, prepare that,
Okay.
we'd
Okay, I'll visit.
type that up and do that.
I'll visit with Earl otherwise, Rick, because Earl's having some issues health-wise, so I'll visit with one of the two of them and get something squared away.
I think that's it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
A lot of stuff.
Yep.
See you Friday.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is Friday, yeah. I failed to tell you that, thank you.
I ran into Dickie last week, so.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep,
see ya.
Okay, with that, we'll go down to the next item on the agenda is the community concern fiscal 12 funding. Roxanne, Mary? Sorry to keep you waiting.
No problem. It's interesting to listen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Having us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead. We're from the community of concern, and our focus is to hand out food to the people in Carroll County in need. We generally try to give them enough food, we say for a week, but most people say it lasts 2 to 3, 4 weeks if they cook right. We are asking for an increase in budget. If anybody's driven by the pantry, they've noticed there's a beautiful, nice big building south of us.
Mhm.
So it will be torn down. We are looking for a place, and I don't know if you guys know of any empty buildings or have something available. We're searching. We only currently pay $300 a month rent. We know that that is very, very good deal in Carroll. And I think the cheapest rent we can find is about $850. And we have to have a building big enough for everything that we have. We are putting an article in the paper, hopefully this week, that leads to the community if anybody knows of anything or has any ideas. We have served 856 households as of November 30th already this year, and 2,600 people, and that's up 130 already from last year. We try not to make this a ongoing program for people. We refer people to jobs, we help people budget, we help people make grocery lists, we want people to be self-sufficient as well. So I believe we have a pretty good program. We also administer the Extra Effort Fund, which helps people in Carroll County with needs that other programs are not met by. So I don't know if you guys have any questions.
How many square feet about do you need?
At least 2,500.
2,500 minimum? Okay.
And we would be interested in a big open space that we could just partition off for offices. We would be happy to rent from you if you had a building with us.
heated. We have received a tremendous amount of food already this year. We got a half semi-load from Farnbachen, and our other fund drives are just more than we've ever received before. So we've put some things in the building to the north of us, but we have outgrown our program. It's just amazing to us. We have served 2,600 people up until the 1st of December, and those are not repeats, all of them. Some are, but we have a lot of new people.
The donation we got with the half semi-load was from Farnbachen employees from Carroll. We've never received that big of a donation from a single business employees before. And we're busting at the seams, which is a good feeling, but we've got to find new seams or we're going to be in trouble. So,
Do you need access to like an overhead door to bring forklift or anything in?
it would be ideal, but we don't have to have that, no. We are very much supported by the people in Carroll County with food and stuff. It's the money that we run dry. So we need to ask the city also for an increase.
And we have a couple other sources, and we pursue grants every year, and we'll pursue them again next year. But grants don't usually pay rent or utilities, things of that sort.
So if you'd like to give us more than 5,000, we would greatly appreciate that, but that's what we're asking for.
We would certainly appreciate it. That would help us.
Any help, if you guys come up with any ideas for a rent location, you can call the office. If anyone else knows of anything.
Have you talked to any of the realtors about what's available?
Yes, we've looked at more than 10 or 12 buildings.
Okay.
And either the rent is too high or they're
Yeah.
huge buildings with no heat.
Mhm.
And it would take a lot of money to.
And we would like to be a long-time renter.
Right.
We don't want to move. So
I understand that.
Idris said that the building we're in is old.
Mhm.
The roof needs repaired, and there's some repairs, and they just don't want to put any more money into it.
Mhm.
I believe Sarah said they're not gonna throw us out if we can't find them, but we can't stay there 10 years either. I think they want us out by spring.
Okay.
You might remember it was the old Pauline's building.
Yeah.
Or you'll be old enough to remember
Remember
that.
that.
I
Thank
am.
Yeah.
I am.
It goes back a ways.
Yeah.
I'm not, so I feel good. So,
Well, we appreciate always being able to count on you every year, because I don't know what we do otherwise.
And I've said this every time, if anyone ever wants to come down and take a tour of what we do and see what's down there, I can certainly make arrangements after hours or during the day or whatever works. We did finally a couple years ago turn the heat up a little bit, but we do run a low budget. We try to buy as cheap as we can or not get by.
Specifically, when do you need to be out of your current location?
They've never given us a specific date, but March is kind of what they've indicated. By spring, they would like to tear
Okay.
what's north of them down. And then spring is what we've been told.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No. Plumbing.
Okay.
So you've looked at other buildings, just
Oh, yes.
nothing, there just hasn't been a fit, yeah.
There's been fits, but they're 2,500 and 3,200 a month, and we know we can't do that.
Our budget just won't handle that. We've added 8,000 to our budget this year to compensate for what we're already paying and what we'll have to pay, but that's really as far as we can stretch, so.
But we've looked at several buildings. One of the realtors has brought us around to a couple places that they know might be within our budget, and the parking has to be decent with more than one or two. There has to be a place where we can bring donations in and out. And it just has not worked so far with what we've looked at.
One that's coming to my mind, and I don't know if there's anything in it on 3rd Street, Cecil Menke's old building. Is that vacant right now?
You mean Don Kitt's building?
It'd be on, right next to Carroll Glass to the west.
Oh, we did look there, and that is occupied. Is it
Okay.
coming open again?
I don't know, that's what
Yeah,
I know
we did
Kitchen
look at that.
Concepts moved out of there. I
Kitchen,
wasn't
yeah.
sure if it was, didn't know if it was occupied again.
Yeah, we even looked at Sitel out north, if I did, they weren't $3,400 a month, so.
That's kind of out of the picture.
Mhm. But we appreciate your help very much.
And the number down at there is 5150792. If anyone thinks of a place that we haven't looked at, we'd certainly be open to looking at anything.
What was it again?
792-5150.
It's on the letterhead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep, that is, okay.
Any other questions or any?
As I drive around town, I'll keep my eye open, see if I can think.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you never know,
it.
people, things change, so.
Yeah, something's gonna come up, and whatever it is, we'll have to make it work
Yeah.
and trust that we'll be taken care of.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, too.
Thanks, Mary. Roxanne.
Okay, with that, we'll go down to the next item, is the CADC fiscal 17 funding. Jim and Shannon?
Good morning.
Good morning. Shannon.
I brought Jim Allen with me. He's president of our organization this year.
Good morning.
Good morning, James.
So you guys have in front of you a funding request for fiscal year 17. Just thought we'd kind of step through that briefly, see if there are any questions, and then we can kind of go into some further discussion. This year, we do have a slight increase in the CADC budget request. And reason being that, you know, with the work we've done with our employers, we recognize the need for a more concerted effort with workforce development. And we see that as having several different key approaches. There's gonna need to be further effort among youth. There's going to need to be a bigger effort outside of the area, you know, targeting maybe alumni, reaching into some of those larger metro areas that may have higher unemployment rates, and trying to get also involved with some of the universities to draw talent into the area. So what we've done in this year is that we have converted our website and internal systems to be more efficient. And what we're going to be able to offer with that website is a job posting. It's going to be a module that employers are able to use, individuals are able to use it. There will be a Carol app that'll have those jobs posted, easily searchable. So we feel like that's something that we can do. But also it is a lot of marketing, and we recognize the expense associated with marketing. Another reason for the increase is that with the housing needs assessment hopefully being completed early in January, any type of additional activity beyond that, we wanted to make sure we have funding available to help facilitate the implementation of some of the strategies that are identified. And CADC is working with the University of Northern Iowa so that mid-January we'll be doing a 3-year strategic plan for the organization. And we expect that workforce development and of course the housing implementation are going to be two very important pieces of that 3-year plan. So I guess with that, I wanted to just explain why the increase a little bit and open it up to questions that you guys may have.
It is quite a substantial increase, actually, compared. I know I did a chart a while back of all of our nonprofits, I call them, and from 2011 until last year, and CADC traditionally has gotten the largest increase of anybody. Over that period of time, it was 24%, which was 4.9% per year, and this is even larger than that for this one year. So it's a substantial amount of increase. And it's not like you haven't gotten increases in the past either, so that would be my only concern, would be the amount. And you can say it's fair not to compare it to these other organizations, and they are not, many of them are quite different in their function and type thing, so maybe it's not fair to compare apples to apples, but it's just something that stood out.
I understand that
Yep.
process, I get that.
Yeah.
Some things that we actually had an exec meeting this morning, and we talked about, you know, we brought in a consultant within the region, but to look at Carroll County and for sites to be ready to build on, or expansion of businesses or industries that want to come to Carroll, and we really don't have anything shovel-ready. You could call Ashwood sort of shovel-ready for smaller buildings, but if someone came in and wanted 5 acres of ground, there isn't any place. Gene and I have had discussions, CADC used to be involved in options to help secure property. I think that's something else that we've gotten away from. What's our role in helping develop ground? That's something we're going to discuss in our strategic plan. Fort Dodge and Indianola, when they bought ground, the city's owned ground. In other communities, they rely on local developers to do that. But if an industry came to town and wanted 5 acres, it'd be challenging to push that through. We've had discussions with a large Iowa corporation on how they work with development, with communities. They prefer not to use developers. They prefer to work with counties or cities direct. So there's a difference of opinion on how to go about development. It may not be the answer, but we think that we need to get involved with some options and start to help, whether countywide, down in Templeton or Bree, it doesn't matter where, we don't care.
In the past, they have worked with the Templeton Air Development Corporation, has had some options on some ground outside the city limits, and one of them was along the rail side and paving. And they helped share that cost, that option for several years until the property got sold to someone else, and we did no more, was able to exercise that option. So, and we had it there just for the case that something came up, like you said. So you got a place to go to start. Right now, they don't.
We don't. And is it Janet Beatty? She's the consultant that can put us at a competitive disadvantage regionally if other communities are prepped or other counties are prepped and we're not. So it's part of our plan.
Stepping into the Partners in Progress piece that was included, that's just kind of an overview that we share with our private sector funding partners to talk about how the year has gone. It'll show who our board is, some of the projects that we've worked on, but partnerships are very important to the organization. You'll see in the very center of the program there, the Small Business Development Center. CADC still does partner with that organization to bring them out. Last year, or the fiscal year that ended end of September, there were 34 clients counseled, 167 hours, 22 new jobs created, and $520,000 in loans and equity. What they bring to the table is market and technical assistance, market research, business plan development, as well as financial packaging. Essentially all those pieces needed to make the project more bankable. They also are very instrumental in helping out with the SBA loan guarantee programs. The other partner that we work with very significantly is Western Iowa Advantage. So I just wanted to kind of talk about a few things that they've got on their plate. With Janet 80, we worked on regional marketing this year. I've got just the example of our marketing piece. Didn't bring all the copies as we are not finalized in our documents there, but so what Janet did is she came out and did a presentation at our annual banquet. She did all the site analysis that Jim talked about, bringing back her comments as a site selector, and then she also helped us with target industry study and our regional marketing efforts. She went through a complete analysis of what we're doing for marketing and business attraction, and brought back her suggestions, that being one of the pieces that we've worked on. So other things that we've worked on this year is Western Iowa Advantage as our business attraction partner is the Employer Educator Summit. This year, very successful event again. We held that in Templeton at the new center. Had approximately 180 people in attendance, and it's a good mix of private sector, education sector, and of course, resource providers. We've worked with lead generation, meaning consultants that help us out with targeting Iowa-ready projects at the trade shows we're attending. We did meet with 12 companies and have proposals out to 7 of those 12 on different sites throughout the region, and are continuing those conversations. For Western Iowa Advantage, I attended 3 trade shows this year. They funded 5, and those were wind energy, food, or AFCOM, which is data and IT, and then advanced manufacturing and robotics. We also are in the process of updating the regional labor shed. That project is done with IWD every other year at a cost of $5,000 per county. So we are, as a region, able to apply for some grant dollars to help get that project done. Also, the Community Venture Network is something that we do through Western Iowa Advantage 3 times a year. We go up to Minneapolis, and there are companies that come out and they talk about their product or business that they're looking at. Some of them have started in Minneapolis and are looking to establish a presence in the region. Others are growth projects or just startup ideas. But this year we did meet with a total of 27 different businesses that we heard from and have continued conversation with. Most recently, last Friday was our final time this year, but again, those are just opportunities for us to get in front of potential projects for Carroll County. So with that group, next year, of our marketing dollars, we had about $50,000 in marketing funds from the state that we leverage with our local match. And one of the things that we haven't gotten started with this term's marketing dollars is the reverse trade mission. So with that, what we want to do is bring site consultants such as Janet Adey out and go through that process again, get them on the ground in our region to really show what our sites and communities have to offer, so that as they're working projects, they are a little more familiar with our area and hopefully more likely to promote Western Iowa for us. I guess those are kind of the primary areas that we worked on with Western Iowa Advantage. We've had a pretty big year this year. And so backing into the priority areas for CADC overall, our business retention expansion visits will go on again this spring. We do those every other year with our primary industries, our major employers, and those that are potential for significant growth. I talked a little bit about the workforce development component. With our unemployment number dipping down to 2.3 through the year, we have a lot of work to do in terms of attracting people. We hear a lot about businesses that are having challenges, and myself included, as we try to hire and replace positions. There is a whole lot of our story that we could be telling outside of the region about what a wonderful community we have and the professional opportunities that are out there. And then, of course, the legislative advocacy. We will plan to do our Access Washington trip again to meet with our elected officials and, just stay on top of things through the Highway 30 group. The professional developers of Iowa have their day at the Capitol, and really just try to offer opportunities for our businesses to stay connected with the elected leaders, as well as bringing our local leaders out to do our candidate forums again this winter. So those, as I said, are kind of our priority areas. We're pretty excited to be doing our planning with UNI. They've done a great job. They work with a lot of the surrounding counties, so I think they'll be able to make sure we're on track and help us plan for the next few years. So, any questions? I know that's a whole lot of information quickly, but we're pretty proud of our program and proud of the things that we have coming up. As I said, we have such an amazing community that we just have to be a little more boastful, I think, and tell our story outside of the region. So.
Shannon, when I saw you on the agenda on Friday, it occurred to me that we never got to connect, having a little private discussion about Western Iowa Advantage. If you would, humor me for a moment.
Sure.
And we can get into a much longer discussion outside of the boardroom, but I mean, obviously CADC still feels very strongly about that relationship. I'll just talk a minute about your request here, but before we get there, if we look at any type of cost containment, I'm sure you thoroughly believe that you run on a purse string budget, and no one's here to debate that. But in terms of cost containment and things like that,
On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the board's belief that we're getting our investment in return with Western Iowa Advantage? And it's not broken out in here in your administrative cost, but essentially, off the top of your head, what are we spending per year in support to belong to that group?
Absolutely. You know, I can't speak for the board members, but myself as being charged with the organization, we spend $10,000 is what we
Okay, 10
contribute
grand.
to Western Iowa Advantage.
Why don't you brief them on
And-
who are the counties again?
Absolutely. It's Adair, Audubon, Greene, Guthrie, Carroll, Crawford, Sac, and Ida.
About 10, isn't there?
8.
8,
It's
okay,
8.
yep.
And so just going down through some of those things, I'll put some numbers to those things I talked about with Western Iowa Advantage. First of all, as I mentioned, the labor shed. Very important document. That's a $5,000 piece that we would be funding on our own. The trade show efforts that we've been at, and very specifically with lead generation, we have promoted 3 sites in Carroll County through the manufacturing show that I was at in November, as well as AFCOM's data center. But those shows have ranged about $4,000 a piece that WEAD is able to pay for us. The site selector, or the community venture network, I'm sorry, that we attend in Minneapolis, that's about a $7,500 program annually. So what we're doing is pooling our dollars to be able to pull in those state dollars. They only will fund marketing dollars to regional groups. We as Carroll County would not be eligible for any of that. And also, with the regional efforts, you know, we're able to be responding to those RFPs that come out. For example, through the state, our region will get a lead that might say, you know, a 200-employee manufacturing facility. Here's what they want. They won't work directly with counties or communities. Those always go to regional groups. So, you know, those are just some of the strong priorities for having that regional presence for us. And again, you know, I can't speak for the board members in saying that it's very important that we're a part of it, but really all of the business attraction and marketing dollars that are spent to promote Carroll County outside of the region in Iowa are done collectively through Western Iowa Advantage.
It appears that when you look at the state map, other than large Cedar Rapids, we have to live within the regional idea, because that's how the rest of the state lives. And to go it alone, you just heard, it could be a challenge. Part of our problem is we are Western Iowa. Let's face it. And we don't have a 4-lane highway running through Carroll. That's part of it too. But we are the biggest county in this group. We may have some things that are to our advantage, being the largest populated county. The disadvantage is we're not on Interstate 80, as one of our neighbors might be. So because the state and because of the way people like to look at regions, not individuals, is 10 grand a lot of money to be part of the club? Yeah. But would it be a lot more expensive to try to go it alone? Yeah, could be.
And I understand it from a participation perspective. What I question, and again, you guys are the sole judge for this, because you're where the rubber meets the road, is are we obtaining the desired results and outcomes of which is set by the own program's objectives?
It would be, it's probably a good idea, Mark, to reevaluate Western Iowa Advantage. You know, how it's structured, how it goes about doing its business. It's probably not a bad thought, you know, to say, look, I would probably question, a lot of other counties are saying the same thing. What are we getting for our dollar? We can bring that forward and come back at a later date, give you some more specifics about being part of a larger group. But again, I don't know how we can't go it alone. We couldn't be the Carroll County group. It's not gonna work. And unfortunately, that's the rules that are set up now and the way the rest of the state lives. We're trying to live within that same neighborhood.
Well, and I'm not certainly advocating that for now. I just thought I'd bring it to the table. I've been meaning to ask and.
Oh,
and,
believe me, we asked that question.
And it's not just the 10,000, it's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10
Absolutely.
times 10. And are we getting a return on that?
We've asked that question. Is it worth our dollar? And You know, we go to a lot of meetings, there's a lot of, there's a lot of handshaking, there's a lot of patting on the back, hey, come to Western Iowa. We have a challenge out here. Chuck, this morning, Chuck Dyesbeck in our group, getting people to want to move to Carroll, protect jobs. Jobs are here. Getting people to want to live here is a challenge. So we work very hard. But we can take a good look at Western Iowa Advantage and come back with a little, whether you want it individually or bring it to the board.
Sure.
Be happy to present the good and the bad.
Thanks. Looking at your budget for next year, unless I'm misreading something, it appears as though administration has moved from 2014 of about $119,000 a year to your forecast of $143,000. Can you explain that?
Administration is going to include some of the programming that we're working on, and really it's classification by our bookkeeping professional. In terms of our meetings, another thing that we're looking at taking on is more of the cost of the Access Washington trip. We as a board talked a lot about the expense that's involved, and so not only are some of the private sector folks and public sector as well that accompany us, they're paying their own way, as well as some of the costs of the printing and the meeting organization. So we did talk about taking on more of that expense, which is going to be an increase there as well. And like I said, the meetings, some of the, sorry, I can't come up with my word here, the workforce recruitment efforts are going to be in the administration section versus business development section of the budget, so.
Total expenses are just moving from 176 to 189. It's pretty substantial. I mean, in a way, I'm feeling kind of almost fortunate you're asking us just for the 8% because your expenses are up quite a bit. Is it still split administratively with the chamber? Are you still a 50-50 proposition?
We are a 55-45.
55-45.
And 45 is CADC.
The 55 is chamber. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Jim, going back to the Western Iowa Advantage, a lot of that, if you look at we're west of Interstate 35, we've got more of a challenge ahead of us than what some of those in eastern Iowa do, and it's based off the population, and that's sad to say, but we've got to think of ways to be a little more creative.
It gets to be like a broken record. We talk to a lot of individuals, they have a hard time hiring people, we have a hard time retaining people. But yet, as I spoke with Doug Burns the other day, we have Dollar Tree that located in Carroll and some other corporate people, and they find that Carroll must be a strong economic area for growth. They're willing to put their stores here, their businesses here, so they must feel there's enough trade dollar out there. I don't know if they look at it and say, we're not coming to Carroll because we can't find any employees. They just, there's two ways that businesses are going to come to Carroll. Large groups have already done their research. They don't need a lot of our input. The old thing, where does an elephant sit? Wherever it wants. If a large industry feels that Carroll's a good place, they're going to try to come. The other part of it is, what can we do to help them come or entice other businesses to come? So Shannon does a great job for us. We've got active board members that take this position extremely seriously, and we truly appreciate your support that you give us. And the housing project's a great example. You've stepped in, the city has stepped in, we've funded it, we have a plan, we're working it, the outcome we'll see. But we appreciate the support we get from the supers. Good job.
Thank you.
Any
Any
other
questions for Shannon or Jim?
Okay.
Okay.
And certainly as other ideas or thoughts come up, you know where to find me. Happy to answer them or to come back as requested, so.
Thanks, Shannon.
One piece I'll leave though that we didn't really get a lot of time to talk about is that MATSE is a Mid-America Economic Development Council. And Janet Ady, who has been doing the work in Western Iowa Advantage, did this it's got a lot of survey results of, the opinions and thoughts of economic developers versus site consultants. So a lot of good information in that, and we can certainly get more copies of that if anyone's interested. But very good piece to really think about, what those that are doing site location of major industries, what their thoughts are, what their opinions are about the area. So very good piece for you as well.
When you get a potential business who wants to come here, say they're gonna have 20 well-paying jobs, what's your first line of sales as far as Carroll County?
First line of sales, what we talk about is the cost of doing business in terms of utilities, in terms of taxation. We talk about the work ethic, that it can be challenging to find employees with the low unemployment rate, but that really speaks well of our workforce. That they want to be employed and engaged in the work setting. And we really talk then about the business climate, camaraderie of our employers. So those are kind of, that's my elevator speech, I guess I'd call it.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. See you too this
Now I heard,
afternoon.
is it 1 or 1:15?
It can be 1:15. 1 o'clock's the plan. so
Okay, I
when
had
you
written
can get
down
there is
1:15
fine.
and the letter said 1, so
Yeah,
I'll be there at
yeah.
1.
Sounds
Catch you
great.
either way.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Have a good
much.
week.
Okay, with that, we'll go down to the fifth item on the agenda is case management elderly care waiver discussion. Justin and Morgan?
Their standing appointment.
Weekly visit.
Pretty much. Well, as things just, change weekly, so. First thing, if we want to just, the elderly waiver that we talked about, we have just an application for that to sign to continue on with that. And then services under the elderly waiver require a quality management, like a self-assessment, just ask a bunch of questions, make sure nobody's getting in trouble or, there's no fraud or anything like that, and that what we're asking for, what services we're providing, that we can meet stuff that's in chapter 24 and that kind of thing, which we're already doing case management, so this is just a matter of adding on what we're already doing. So I guess we just need to decide if you guys wanted to sign that today, and then we can get that in. And then, like we said last week, that would give us the opportunity.
Has anything changed? Did you learn anything else that you haven't mentioned already since last week?
So last Tuesday, we had a meeting, an administrators meeting in Des Moines, where a lot of the different case management agencies met, and the 2 MCOs were actually there too, the 2 that were going to work with us long term. And basically, they talked a lot about, they're looking for the other agencies to take people on as far as clients because of the agencies closing. They're looking for people to, take on elderly waiver clients. They asked us, what is, not us specifically, but everybody in the room, you need to let us know what your capacity is, so they know how many clients that they can give us. There were some agencies in the room that were just like us that wanted to take clients on so that they could expand and be a little bit, more sustaining. There were some agencies that have lost half their case managers and they're looking to refer those cases on other places. So it was, as far as that part of it, they want to give us clients. We're not sure how many. The elderly waiver is just part of that. The agencies range from where we're at to others where they want to kind of, get rid of some clients because they can't provide the care for them. Also with that, we found out that we are guaranteed 100% of our rate through March now. So that was a difference where if we didn't have a contract, we were only going to get 90.
90, yeah.
So now that's guaranteed at 100% through March, so that's good. And I probably would think about if we have any clients that are going to stay on those 2 agencies with those other 2 managed care companies, that maybe we transfer those clients out towards the end of March, where that guarantee is. I think it would be cleaner that way, and the new places should be able to take those clients on. I don't think there's going to be many. But I just think it would be a cleaner thing to do, but we can discuss that once we figure out how many are on that. So that was a good thing. So even with AmeriGroup, who we don't have a contract with, we're guaranteed 100% of our rate for the first 3 months.
Okay.
So, So that's good. We talked about that. one change that we found out too is the WellCare and the AmeriHealth are gonna have their own systems. You know how we use CSN now. I'm not sure how much we're gonna be able to use CSN in the future. The two companies that we're gonna use have their own systems, which at first it's like, okay, we're used to CSN, I really like it, but when they kind of just briefly talked about what we could be able to do in their systems, where we would have actually more access to, like, all the medical stuff for those clients are gonna go into their system, so we're gonna have more, information at our fingertips that we can actually look at, so that would be actually a benefit to be in their systems. It's gonna be a learning curve. They're kind of popping up trainings on us. I have a 3-day one starting tomorrow with AmeriHealth to learn their system. And then, so I think WellCare might have one next month. So that'll be, like I say, a learning curve, but in the long run, it will be helpful to have more information because they are going to count on us to do, more than just concentrate on the waiver, kind of like we have been. So.
I remember I had asked that question a couple
Yeah.
of meetings back.
And we were hoping.
Will it be dual entry then? Will you have to input everything in on CSN and then is it redundant then?
No, CSN is still going to be trying to be involved, but we wouldn't put things in two places. I mean, that wouldn't make sense. The only thing that we would be uncertain of if we use this new system is how we would bill. That's the thing. We can bill with paper forms, which, that's going to take time. Electronically, how we bill now would obviously be the preference. So we're just not sure how that part's going to work out yet, whether we can somehow use CSN, if CSN can communicate with those other programs, and how that's going to work. We're not sure yet.
So when you go to cost settle, does that impact that in any way?
It shouldn't, because we don't pay anything for CSN specifically. And the companies have said that we wouldn't have to pay the clearinghouse fees. So the clearinghouse is where if you bill electronically, all your files go to this clearinghouse and they shoot them off to there. Some of them charge, but
Right.
it sounds like they'll waive those for the agencies like us. So financially, I don't think it would be really much of an impact, as long as we don't have to pay any clearinghouse fees, because we don't now. So that shouldn't make much of a difference. It would be obviously some training time in there, but other than that. So yeah, it seems like things have kind of get more information. I know that there's a lot of different information that's going around. Just going to that meeting, we heard different things. So it's hard to keep it all straight sometimes when, some groups are saying these things, some groups are saying these things, Some groups are gonna end at the end of the month, some groups are gonna go till June, some groups wanna go long-term. So it's kind of interesting to see how each agency is tackling the same exact issue.
And take me back to the elderly waiver again. I think it was last week you reported that once they go to age 65, the BIs
Yes.
will automatically go
They
to
would-
that.
yeah, they
So
would
we would
transition.
normally be losing those.
Correct.
So unless there's any other disagreement, I think it only makes sense that we certainly make ourselves capable of providing those services.
Yeah, and even new clients, I mean, with Morgan's background, we would be a perfect agency to be able to take on some of the elderly waiver.
Right.
So, I mean, because they don't want to just, give a case management agency elderly waiver. I mean, that's a different population that we're used to serving. So, I mean, that's good that we would have some background.
Do you still have the option of not accepting certain people?
Yeah, we're never really tied in per se to accepting clients. Typically, we've never turned any clients away, but you don't have to necessarily take clients.
I think it's a good situation, and it'll help your sustainability and broaden your base a little bit.
I think it's kind of like, you're just adding diversity to be able
Sure,
to,
sure.
we don't know what things are going to look like in years, so let's get our, selves out there. And that's the same thing that the MCOs, those two that came, were saying, you guys need to market yourselves. let us know what you can do for us. If you can provide, you know, services to other counties, other areas, other waivers. And that's kind of what we've been doing.
Yeah, might be within the Rolling Hills region. Of course, some of the counties had DHS, but we're the only county that's going to be maintaining our case management.
Yeah, and
None of the
so
other counties are.
that was brought up too. Okay, so those clients, what happens to them after January 1st when those agencies close? So even the managed care organizations aren't 100% sure how to handle some of that, because they're not going to necessarily know, especially now that that time period of billing without a contract at 100% of your rate has been extended, you know, through March. There could be case management agencies that don't sign contracts but plan to go ahead and serve their clients to help with the transition or things of that nature. So managed care organizations aren't necessarily going to know as of January 1st who needs a case manager or not. And so it's really up to those agencies to, you know, let those managed care organizations know, you know, after managed care organizations are going to have their final list and stuff on Christmas Day. So after that time period, it would be a good idea for those agencies to let the managed care organizations know, these are the clients we have with your managed care organization. We are closing on the end of the month, just so you know. And then they have some time to find another agency. So that's kind of been.
Are they going to do that? Don't know.
I don't
Guess
know.
that's their business, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I emailed Dawn, because the region kind of is still the ones who appoint the case management agencies. I just let her know what they had, their thoughts on that from that meeting. So I don't know if she'll discuss that with them or not. But I mean, if, just for the welfare of the clients, it would be
Absolutely.
a good idea to, just so that they know, okay, we're pulling out of it. And if they wanted to, you know, assign us to some of those cases, it would be fairly simple for them to do that beforehand if they wished.
Because most of your clients have gotten all their documentation from the MCOs.
Yeah, all of them should have gotten it by now. We haven't, I don't think we've ever heard of maybe one that didn't have it, and we haven't heard back from them as far as I know. So everybody should have them. We actually helped quite a few people last week who called in and wanted some help with the paperwork. Most of them were all our clients, and again, overwhelmingly, they ask us straightforward, you know, which ones are you guys going to be able to work with long-term? So,
Good, that's good to hear.
yeah, I think that, you know, really the percentage of people who have said that is very, very high. I think we've only know of one client who's going to pick a different managed care organization, one of the ones that we provide for. So that's really good.
Is there any situations where some clients want to go with you, but it won't work out because that particular MCO doesn't have the services that they need?
Well, the only real big issue right now is basically in our town here, what the doctor's offices and those guys are gonna do. And you know, as far as I know, some of them may be holding off on that. So they, you know, because they have to make their choice by the end of Thursday, I believe, is the 17th. So they may have to make their choices, at least for January, before they know all that information.
Okay.
So that's still the one kind of a big factor, because most of the time a doctor would win out over us. Which makes sense. I mean, you know, their health